Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Melissa Olthoff from Chris Kennedy Publishing and Baen Books. Melissa, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So the first question I have is I want to find out, how did you know you wanted to become a writer, and when was that?
I would say all the way back in high school, mostly because I would get bored in class and then I would make up fun little stories in my head based off of whatever cartoon I was currently obsessed with. I got a little bit more serious about writing when I was in the Air Force. So I got medically put on what's called med hold, where I was put up in the front office of the ops group commander, and I had to look like I was busy, even though I wasn't a lot of times. So I just went, okay, I guess I'm going to write a book. So I started writing a book, and that one shall never see the light of day, ever.
Okay.
But it really just got me back into writing again, and spent a few years doing that, and then I had kids. And no brain cells for quite a few years, but obviously got back into it, and I'm really happy to be here.
Suddenly, your friend group makes a lot more sense when you mentioned the Air Force stuff.
Yes.
I'm like, that's how I know how you know Casey. I know how you know Marissa. I know how you're connected with that group. Then.
Yep.
So when did you get to sell your first story?
Oh, this is a fun story. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. Casey Moores, who is my oldest friend, we met when we were both stationed at Moody Air Force Base. And I was in his wedding. I love his wife. She's one of my best friends. And he contacted me out of the blue, maybe 3 years after us not talking because life, gets in the way. And he's like, hey, can you read this short story for me? I'm like, of course. So I read it. I gave him feedback. And he's like, hey, have you heard about this thing called NaNoWriMo? Where you try and, lose your mind and try and write a novel or 50,000 words in a month. I'm like, no, what's that? So he explained it, and I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. He read what I, word vomited out, and he's like, you should try writing. I'm like, okay. He's like, there is an open call at Chris Kennedy Publishing. By the way, it's due in 3 weeks. But it was urban fantasy, which is my favorite genre out of all of my favorite genres, because I have a lot of favorites.
Of course.
But that was my first published short story, was with Chris Kennedy Publishing. It was on the Wild Stallions imprint, which is currently not active right now, but it was very much a urban fantasy romance type anthology. The anthology name escapes me at the moment, but it was just a fun little werewolf urban fantasy story.
And what year did that come out?
Oh, this is why we don't do time math, sir. I think that was only 2019.
Oh, okay, so that's still pretty recent.
It was recent.
Yeah.
It was.
So you've really sped up the process, because you've had a lot of books come out in the last couple of years. And so if you started in 2019, that's
oh
fast.
Man, I had a this is why we don't do time math moment.
Yeah.
I got a Facebook memory, and it was for Sunrise Over Shippo, which was my first published novel in the Salvage title universe, and that came out in February of 22. And I'm like, that's 2.5 years ago. I've written 10 novels in 2.5 years. And then I had to sit down and I'm like, okay, this is great.
So that's actually a good connection into my next question, which is the Salvage title universe, which is a really big and expansive series. And if you don't know much about the Salvage title universe, come to LibertyCon, where they do entire panels on it.
We do.
And they are more fun than they are informative, but they're really good. They are really excellent panels, and you were on one, so I learned a lot about the Salvage title universe. But can you tell people what that universe is, and then what your collaborations with Nick Steverson, and then also what your original books were?
So the Salvage title universe is this expansive sandbox, and I call it sci-fi light. It is very straightforward. Kevin Steverson is the universe creator, and I call him Space Dad we've known each other for a couple of years now, and you could tell when you went to that panel, all of us are really good friends.
Yeah.
And the universe itself has very simple rules. We have a gate system for traveling. We have all of these different races and planets. We have the salvage system itself. Kevin Steverson's trilogy was very much watching the underdog triumph kind of thing, and get established in his own space. And it was a come to Salvage. We believe in freedom and found family and all this stuff. And I'm like, ooh, I love found family. Tell me more. And I got invited to write a short story. And Kevin Steverson did his little, I really liked it. How about you give me a novel? Did I say novel? I meant trilogy.
That's great.
That is the Kevin Steverson method, and I, to be clear, was not sad at all because I'm like, yes, I will write 3. 3 apparently wasn't enough because I got through the 3rd one about halfway, and Chris Kennedy very wisely was like, that word count's getting a little higher. You sure it's not 2 books? I'm like,
you're going to call it a Bane trilogy.
it's a Bane trilogy because the 4th
but it's
one.
Chris Kennedy, though.
Yes, the 4th one is going to be coming out probably early next year. I just have to write it first. But
well, we know your writing output, so we're not worried about that. You're not going to George Martin.
no. The voices in my head will not let me sleep half the time. But with the Salvage Title Universe, I am called the Salvage Bunny because apparently, if you nickname a character Bunny, that becomes your nickname. And I, again, can thank Casey Morse for that one, and I'm not sad at all.
I'm surprised your nickname is not Salvage Ducky.
I know. I've got Ducky over in the Four Horsemen universe, and I always love picking character nicknames that aren't the typical, like, honey badger or werewolf or wolf or tiger. I'm like, no, I'm going to go for, like, the cute, adorable, seemingly harmless, but will absolutely stab you character nicknames because they're fun.
And so you've worked with the Steversons in the Salvage Title, but you've also, as your friend that you mentioned earlier, Casey Moores, you have a book in his and Bill Fawcett's Blood and Armor series that just recently came out, I think in like the last month.
It did.
And that is Forlorn Hope, which is here. I do not have the physical thing, but you'll just see it, on the screen.
It's very shiny.
Yeah. Can you
cover's
tell us
amazing.
about what the Blood and Armor series is, and then what your contribution to it was with Forlorn Hope?
So the Blood and Armor, and honestly, Casey Moores has the best pitch for this series, but it is near future mill sci-fi, and it is set in the currently non-existent Kurdish Republic. And the hardest part about the series is that so much of it is based in actual history, actual events, things in the Middle East that we saw while we were deployed, things in the Middle East that are happening now. And it is about how a billionaire type figure is a friend to these people and gifts them these suits of powered armor. And Bill Fawcett did an incredible amount of research on what parts of the armor are currently possible, available, possible, things that are in our current reach. And out of everything that he did, the only things that weren't quite ready yet was a arm-sized railgun, because those need Navy destroyer ships right now, and battery, because anything that is going to be powered armor right now is out of our capability because it needs the power that we don't have. But he basically took powered armor, epic battles, some characters that you really want to root for because, again, we love those underdogs, and a people that really need, some hope. So with he pulled in Casey. He went to Chris Kennedy. They recommended Casey Moores because he is excellent at military sci-fi and military history. And then I met Bill Fawcett at LibertyCon. Again,
of course.
Got to go to LibertyCon. And I did it was a mentoring session. And, I mentioned I knew Casey. I'd been reading the books for him, and we talked about military history. And he's like, you know what? I need a woman that could write this particular female character's POV. Would you be interested? I'm like, after we talked with Casey, absolutely. I would love to. So we wrote Forlorn Hope together. And Casey, like I said, oldest friend. We've known each other forever. We've talked about co-writing together, and co-writing with him was amazing. We had so much fun, especially because we were on the phone every day going, let's talk through this scene. Let's figure out who's going to write what. And there were some very heartbreaking scenes that we had to write. Forlorn Hope should tell you that things are desperate. Things are not happy. But in the end, there is hope. There is that hope that pulls you through and kind of saves the day.
Well, it's interesting. It shows that you have this range, that you're able to do something like the Salvage Title series, which is more fun and is more lighthearted and stuff. And then you have something that you can also handle the serious when you need to with Forlorn Hope. You've also... I want to talk a little bit more about working with Chris Kennedy Publishing, because it's a publisher that I found a lot of people just don't know about because it's fairly new. It started recently, but I've seen that their output is incredible. Their dedication to doing long-running series and short series as well, and pulling in a lot of different types of authors together. What's been the experience of, do you find that it has some of the stuff that traditional publishing has, or is it very much more its own unique thing?
I would say the answer is both.
Okay.
So Chris Kennedy himself is an amazing individual. I personally find that, one, he is a professional, right? But he is also the person I just call boss.
Yeah.
And I will sit at BarCon, which is where you just hang out at the bar at whatever convention you're at, and we will just, talk over drinks, whatever variety of drink that you prefer, and you can just have fun with him. So he is excellent at pulling in people from, there's a lot of former military in Chris Kennedy Publishing, and there's a lot of people that didn't serve. And he looks for quality over quantity. But again, like you said, he puts out a lot of books.
I think that when we were at LibertyCon, they said that he had one book every week this year.
Yeah. He usually leaves one Friday empty per quarter, like as a catch-up day.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, just about every Friday and some Tuesdays.
That's crazy. That's a lot of publishing.
If you cannot find something that fits your reading tastes at Chris Kennedy Publishing, you're probably not a fan of sci-fi or fantasy, because we have the fun sci-fi, like the hiatus, space hyenas stuff that Nick and Steverson and I did, and you have the serious mill sci-fi, you have excellent fantasy on the new mythology side. Like, there is something for everybody.
And then, I do like that he has different presses.
Yes.
That it's like a dedicated, so it's not all lumped together, because I think it adds that element of professionalism, like a traditional publisher would have. But he's not necessarily based out of New York. He's it's more all over the place, and so I really like that. And I do think that if his publishing house continues to grow and we can get word out there and get books in bookstores, I do foresee him being able to compete seriously with the major publishers.
Oh, I think so
it's
too.
absolutely possible.
And part of the reason that CKP is so successful is, again, that found family concept. Like, we go to cons together, but we also have Factory Con out almost in Chris's backyard in the campground down the road. Like, we like being around each other. We have a weekly Zoom meeting, a cantina, where we just hang out.
Yeah.
And anybody that's in CKP is we don't do the cliques. We don't do like, well, you're my friend, but no. I mean, it's just one big group, and everybody's really cool.
You also have done a lot of short stories.
Yes.
You've done a lot of short stories with not only CKP, but you also have an upcoming short story with Bain Books.
I do.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that short story that you have coming out.
So Jason Cordova put together an excellent anthology. I think a little bit of that story is that they had an extra cover. It was a gorgeous cover, and they decided that it didn't quite fit what they had originally intended to put it with. So they're like, well, what if we do an anthology? And it was a look at the cover, give me a short story that incorporates the elements from the cover. And so Nick Steverson and I were invited by Jason to write a short story. And then we talked with Casey Azell, who was also invited to write a short story. We were like, oh, hey, how about we pair up our stories? And we wanted to do kind of we called our story Bug Hunt, and Casey's is Bug Out. Okay. And it was very much a homage to Aliens and Starship Troopers and just like the fun sci-fi movies that we loved when we were growing up, and quite frankly still love, and I need to rewatch. And that was just so much fun playing with like space marines, and I think we're getting a storm out there, man.
I'd be really curious to see if that picks up.
I know
the audio.
Like, we're really high up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very much like a sci-fi space marine like recon mission, and it was a lot of fun because I got to play with the military aspects of it.
And then I know I was going to ask about upcoming projects, but there's one in particular that I'm really interested in, which is one of the books in the Valkyrie series. So can you tell me a little bit about your upcoming book that comes out September 20th, so very soon?
Only a little? Okay, you might have to cut me off because I am all the enthusiastic. So The Valkyrie series is a branch from Hit World, which William Allen Webb and Larry Hoy developed together, where it's like urban fantasy, anything goes against the backdrop of legal assassinations. If you can pay the money and take out a contract on somebody, you can legally assassinate somebody, which is all sorts of bonkers.
Yeah.
And the Valkyries is kind of created to deal with interdimensional threats. So it's everything I love about urban fantasy, where it is, you have a normal world, you have our world, but you have that hidden underside where magic and talents and monsters and all this stuff is real. If you have heard of it, it can exist in Valkyries and Hit World. So my story is actually going to follow on to Marissa's, which is the Valkyries Chosen, and that's Bryn's story. Bryn is kind of like our Nick Fury of the Valkyries. She is the director. She is the one that is pulling everybody into this awesome team to deal with the threats that LEI can't. LEI is like the Life Enders Incorporated. They're the shooters, the assassins, right? Legal assassins.
Yeah.
So Marissa asked a bunch of us to write a short story a few years ago, the Valkyries Initiative, and it was give me strong female characters without giving me strong female characters. And I came up with Athena. Athena is, I was like, I don't really like the assassin thing. So I've got, you killed my father, prepare to die. But she doesn't blame the shooter because he was the weapon. She blames the person who took out the contract on her father. So I planted the seeds for enemies to lovers, slow burn, urban fantasy romance. And I am in love with this story. It is Shadows May Fall, comes out on September 20th. And it is Athena and Sebastian and a lot of snarky banter, a lot of slow burn, enemies to lovers stuff that I love, and a potentially world-ending threat that might eat everybody's soul. No big deal. They're going to handle it. I have faith in them.
The Valkyries thing makes me think there's got to be at some point in this series an attempted assassination of some sort of like political leader. If you're gonna have that kind of Valkyrie from world history as well. So
right. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'd be curious if that ever makes it into the series.
Anything can happen.
And which publisher is this one through?
So this one is through Hit World Press.
Hit World Press. Okay.
So Bill Webb and Larry Hoy, they figured out how to do the publishing thing at the very small level. They worked their butts off to make this happen, and I'm so happy that they did, because we really want to expand that universe and have fun with it, and I think it's going to be really good.
Okay. And then, do you have anything else you can pitch? Any short stories or novellas or novels? Certainly, there's got to be something. If you're with your output, you got to have something.
I have secrets that I'm not allowed to share yet, but I have secrets, and I'm not sad about any of these secrets. And I will spill the secrets when I can. But as far as upcoming projects that I can talk about, Salvage Bunny 4, titled Daughter of Shippo, is on my writing.
Bookends the Sunrise at Shippo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, well, if I have 4 of them, then I've got to do Daughter of Shippo.
Yeah.
So that one will probably be my end of year project. I will absolutely be doing a second Valkyries novel. I've got about 12,000 words of chaotic notes on that one already, so it's right there. And there's some more stuff coming down the pipe that I'm very excited about and cannot wait to talk about.
And then if people want to follow you online to keep up with all of your stuff, where should they follow you?
So they can find me at melissaolthoff.net. I do not yet go both ways, but eventually I will also have .com because, I mean, it's kind of have to. You can also find me on Facebook. I spend way too much time there. And unfortunately, I just discovered Instagram and Instagram Reels where you just can never stop scrolling.
Yep.
I'm active there as Salvage Bunny.
Yeah.
And I am on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I think that's all of them right now.
Well, thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching. Hello, and welcome to my channel.
I'm so sorry. I'm watching it on the screen. It's so cute. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Do you want me to go sit over there?
No,
Okay.
I'm gonna make that a blooper.
There's your cackle.
And they can't see it.
It's the best. That's how it should appear on all videos. Oh, she did, but she didn't. I was excited. I was like, here we go.
I thought you were mocking me, so that makes
Oh
it
my
better.
god, no!
She was excited.
I was excited.
Okay. So, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. So, oh, it's a baby Yoda. I haven't seen.
Isn't it so cute?
That is cute. Again, I said the
like
duck
ducks.
thing, you know.
I like ducks.